Hello, it's a lovely good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television News. For those watching us in Zambia and around the world, my name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Our top stories in the news tonight: fertilizer procurement scandal goes to court. Chinese investors cautioned against engaging in illegalities. Scale down on COVID-19 restrictions distresses mask sellers. In international news, Nigeria struck by worst floods in a decade. And in sports news, DAKA joins the CHIPOLOPOLO team ahead of the Friday game against Mali.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me?
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello once again, the news in detail now. Some youths in Lusaka who had taken advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic by engaging in the business of selling masks have fallen on hard times following the lifting of wearing of masks. Last month, Health Minister Sylvia Masebo announced the lifting of the wearing of masks in 22 districts that have attained above 70% vaccination coverage. In random interviews, some youths around the central business districts who are usually stationed at shopping malls and bus stops say they have started selling other commodities after the government lifted the mandatory wearing of masks. More in this report.
At the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, some enterprising minds took advantage of the situation by making business sense out of a global disaster. One of the COVID-19 golden rule of masking up saw an influx of youths besiege the central business district by targeting public places such as shopping malls and bus stops. Armed with bags of masks, the men and women were daily cashing in by selling masks at 5 kwacha each. It was only a little later that a mask would fetch for 3 kwacha. The COVID-19 masks vendors had a thriving business as government made it mandatory for citizens to wear masks to avoid the spread of the dreaded pandemic. Not anymore. Business is now slow for the COVID-19 masks vendors. In particular, are 2 youths found at Southgate Mall near Kolimo Tower. Soon after the lifting of wearing of masks, business has been slow for these 2 youths and others. They are to apply innovation, lest they starve their families by incorporating other commodities in their businesses.
Hapa inabwelera kumbuyo hapa. Si enda in short mavene enzo endera pacha. So I mask maona pamene nagulira pamande pa Wednesday. Nagulisa hapo cheo to the 20. So kalika paga kama nkalamo 50. So inabwelera kumbuyo maningi. Yeah, my man now survive la. That's why inagula go to my sweets pamene pajanezo kulisa kuti ma mask so itu tunankala ko repressed fish
Uona chirengesa kuti business yama mask kalesoni chani.
ya kali vanachita bani ma mask kuvala ma mask mu public sidi mandatory hapa so yamene vantu vanachita respond bonse mamene vanachita announce
hapa niyokosa niyokosa kuchira boss siende naenda kutokusenza kulisa kuti tuli so hapa yavuta rai
Kudala mwenzo kulisa bwanji
tezo siriza wapaki tutatu tuwili ayenze kuenda kudala ezo kwanisa na renting kulipira nyumba rent
chane chirengesa kuti business inkalesonja
kukacha zuva ilo futi vanaresa mabasi.
One is a driver and the other is an occupational safety, health, environmental certificate holder. But they had to resort to selling masks because of lack of jobs in their respective fields.
Ndile driver na driving license.
Okay.
C1.
Okay.
Ngaichose mayor.
Ngaichose.
Driving license. Na driving license C1.
So mkambati.
So nisakira nchito ngesikuru. So pemnyembekeza nchito nimbulisira mutu mamasi njera. But otherwise nchito ikapezeka nchinasia na voice.
ninasha ako certificate mu occupational health and safety so wamena ngapezeka kona nchito yo wanganipasa kwa ninasiyopezeka na mamaski.
It is encouraging to see a cadre of youths engaging in genuine toil irrespective of their station in life. Surely, if they keep working hard, one day they will be rewarded with sustainable sources of income. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
4 aggrieved fertilizer suppliers have sued the Zambia Public Procurement Authority ZPPA and the Ministry of Agriculture in the Lusaka High Court over the duo's decision to cancel a tender it awarded to them for supplying and delivery of compound D and urea fertilizer for the 2022-2023 farming season. Evergreen Fertilizer Limited, Stoughton Investments Limited, Summer Agro Investments Limited and Konchak Investments Limited have commenced judicial review against the duo, seeking a declaration that the said decisions are illegal and unreasonable. The 4 also seek an order of prohibition to restrain the Procurement Committee and the Ministry of Agriculture from proceeding with a non-competitive direct bidding procedure. More in this report.
In a twist of event, 4 aggrieved fertilizer suppliers whose tender was cancelled by the Zambia Public Procurement Authority, ZPPA, have rushed to the Lusaka High Court seeking a declaration that the said decision is illegal and unreasonable. Few days ago, the ZPPA cancelled the fertilizer tender which was recently awarded to proceedings against ZPPA, and the Ministry of Agriculture wants the court to quash the decision by the Procurement Committee, the Ministry of Agriculture, for terminating a tender granted to them to supply, delivery, warehousing and distributing of 259,992 metric tons of compound D fertilizer for the 2022-2023 farming season, and has now embarked on a limited bidding or direct bidding procedure involving the unsuccessful bidders that applied the notice of the best evaluated bidders. They have submitted before court that in June 2022, the Ministry of Agriculture advertised and called for eligible bidders through an open national bidding process for the supply and delivery of compound D fertilizer for the 2022 and 2023 farming season. And on the 19th of August 2022, the Ministry of Agriculture indicated that they won the said tender. States that on the 12th of September 2022, the defendants cancelled the said tender. They state that the decision of the Appeals Committee of the ZPPA Public Procurement Principles are set out in Regulation 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 and 15, as the appeal was determined on issues not raised by unsuccessful bidders and was heard without according them an opportunity to be heard before the cancellation, despite being the best evaluated bidders. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
Former Defense Minister Geoffrey Mwamba has asked the Economic Financial Crimes Court to be given time off to attend to his condition before it gets worse. Mr. Mwamba, who is facing 24 counts of corruption-related charges, made his application after the state asked for an adjournment. His lead defense counsel, Bonaventure Mutale, told Magistrate Ngobola that the accused is a hypertension
to the operations of the appointed advisory committee members and the need to adhere to them. As you may be aware, the President is passionate about the welfare of inmates serving in correctional facilities and centers throughout the country. You have seen from time to time the President talking about how we have to ensure that we lessen the burden of incarceration and overcrowding in correctional centers and facilities and make the stay of inmates bearable and humane.
The minister is hopeful that the guidelines will cultivate a sense of accountability and improve transparency of the advisory committee as they make recommendations to the president.
It is my sincere hope that these guidelines will cultivate a sense of accountability and improve transparency of the advisory committee as they make recommendations to His Excellency the President. The development of these guidelines is therefore a milestone in as far as making objective recommendations is concerned.
He further notes that if inmates are well supported by the general public, they will significantly contribute to the socio-economic development of the country. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Du Jianhu, has warned that the Chinese embassy will not shield any Chinese company or national getting involved in illegal activities while in Zambia. The Chinese envoy says there seems to be more negative news about Chinese companies because of the large proportion of China's investments in Zambia. Mr. Jianhu says the Chinese government will communicate with Chinese companies regularly, requesting them to follow Zambian laws, produce safely, respect local staff, and do business with honesty. He said this at a press conference in Osaka ahead of the China-Zambia Trade and Investment Forum, which will take place from the 28th to the 29th of September 2022. In the meantime, Acting Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Elias Mubanga, says Zambia is in a strong position to stay competitive and continue to attract higher levels of foreign direct investments. More in this report.
Hardly a month passes by without a report of a Chinese national being entangled in labor dispute, a situation that has left many wondering why such cases have continued to repeat themselves at the watch of the authorities. Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Dun Xiao, however, says there seems to be more negative news about Chinese companies because of the large proportion of Chinese investment into Zambia. The ambassador, who spoke at the press briefing in Lusaka ahead of the China-Zambia Trade and Investment Forum, which will take place from the 28th of September to the 29th of September 2022, has since warned that the Chinese embassy will not shield any Chinese company or national who behaves illegally while in Zambia.
There seems to be negative news about Chinese companies because of the large proportion of China's investments. Regularly requesting them to follow Chinese law and Zambia laws. Third, the embassy will not shield any Chinese company or national who behaves illegally.
The ambassador further says the forum will provide an opportunity for Zambia and China to cement its relationship and says the debt situation should not stall China-Zambia bilateral cooperation.
The debt issue should not stall China-Zambia bilateral cooperation. The essence of the debt problem is to get initial capital for development. And the key to solve the debt problem is development, which demands investment and economic increase.
Meanwhile, Acting Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry Elias Mubanga has emphasized the need for skill transfer even as investors come into Zambia.
It is our firm belief that domestic and foreign direct investment can bring into the country the much needed capital, technology and transfer of skills. That's very important. Yes, we want to make sure that our Zambian business community get involved. But we are encouraging as government that we need to partner. Partnership is key to receive the transfer of technology.
And the Zambia Development Agency ZDA Acting Director General, who was represented by Jessica Chembo, says the Zambia-China Expo will help strengthen the bilateral agreement that exists between the two countries.
This event are being held today, therefore provides a valuable platform for our potential Zambian and Chinese business community to optimize available opportunities in trade and investment in order to contribute to the economic development of both Zambia and China.
Nearly 200 Chinese enterprises have officially signed up for the forum, and the embassy has also invited about 10 Chinese to the forum online. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Transparency International Zambia, TIZ, has assured of its relentless effort in making sure that the political party's bill is passed, which, when passed into law, will see the promotion of transparency and accountability in political campaign financing. Addressing the media in Lusaka Wednesday, TIZ Executive Director Maurice Nyambe says the regulation in this regard will also be an important step toward enhancing integrity in Zambia's political process. Mr. Nyambe notes that 2 years ago, TIZ embarked on a project dubbed Enhanced Political Integrity and Transparency in Campaign Financing in Zambia, with 3 objectives, among them strengthening the capacity of civil society organizations to advocate for advanced legislation around campaign financing. Meanwhile, TIZ lead governance Chimuka Nachivinga says failure to have legislation for political party campaigns may result in the funders of these parties instigating the formulation of laws that favor their selfish motives, thereby influencing corruption.
TIZ will continue to facilitate dialogue, consensus building amongst political players, as well as engaging relevant institutions in advocating for legislation. We are convinced that regulation of political party and campaign financing will be an important step towards enhancing integrity in our political processes and thereby contribute to a reduction of electoral corruption and just corruption in general. We therefore make an urgent call to all stakeholders, including you, our colleagues in the media, not to relent in this regard, but to ensure that the quest to enhance the integrity of our political processes remains alive in public discourse until legislation to that effect is enacted.
Our concern, of course, like it has been highlighted, is that when we do not know where these political parties are accessing their funds, of course, we open up the country in terms of dangers. Is that these people, when they put in their monies, they will definitely require to recoup their money at some particular point in time. So let's say, for example, if UPND was funded by dirty money from different people or corporations that we are not aware of, do you think those corporations will not reclaim their money? They will definitely reclaim their money. And what will happen now is that they will influence policies. And this is how now grand corruption penetrates in our economy. So you find that the policies that are going to be set, for example, will favor those people that put their money into campaigns.
The United Mine Workers Union of Zambia, UMUZ, on the copper belt has appealed to the government to quickly find money to recapitalize Konkola Copper Mines, KCM, and Mopani Copper Mines. UMUZ President Wisdom Ngwira notes that despite pronouncements by President Hakainde Hichilema on the unlocking of KCM and Mopani in order to stimulate growth, productivity, and job creation, there seems to be a lack of urgency in solving the challenges faced by the two mines. Mr. Ngwira says contractors have been sent home and that they have demobilized. He says that the solution lies in sitting with Glencore and Vedanta and that the government should do so without further delays.
The pronouncement by His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, on the unlocking of KCM and Mopani in order to stimulate growth, productivity and job sustainability has always been a mouth-watering news. But we want to underline a statement by government that they are very close to unlocking the two institutions. The question is, how close is government to the word close? The reality is that things are not good for the two institutions. There is lack of recapitalization, which is affecting the operations and the life in general for the two giant mines. For your own information, contractors have been sent home and they have demobilized like AAC, Reliant, Zuma, 722 and many more. These are entities that were at the core of production. So given this scenario, where do we see the giants in the next few months? Are we able to meet the 3 million metric tons of finished copper in the next 3 months? Our analysis as a union is that before we throw ourselves into deeper waters, we humbly appeal to government to quickly find money for the two institutions. Additionally, if the solution lies in sitting with Glencore and Vedanta, please do so without delay.
The Civil Society Constitution Agenda, CISCA, is concerned with the continued incarceration without trial of the Patriotic Front member of the Central Committee, Ms. Mumbi Piri. CISCA chairperson Judith Mulenga notes that prolonged detention pending trial amounts to rights violation of Mumbi Piri and others. She has reminded the government that the presumption of innocence is enshrined in Article 18, Cap 2 of our Constitution, and therefore, until proven guilty, no one should have to be behind bars for longer than the law demands. Ms. Mulenga says the UPND manifesto affirms not only to strengthen all institutions to provide and guarantee security, safety, human rights, civil liberties and justice, but to also modernize the operations of the judiciary to speed up. Farmers have been implored not to panic in an event of an armyworm outbreak, as there are existing and effective ways of managing the pests. And landscape ecology, wild agroforestry senior researcher Professor Red Harrison notes with concern that some pesticides are not user-friendly, as they tend to further affect the crop and soil and threaten human health. Meanwhile, Zambia Agricultural Research Institute ZARI Director Ivor Mukuka says the Ministry of Agriculture through ZARI has focused on finding ways of effectively and sustainably managing the fall of armyworms since its detection in Zambia in 2016. Speaking at the scientific conference on developing storeholders-oriented integrated pest
flour, cotton and soybeans, armyworms invade each year to wreak havoc on Zambia's crop, much to the disappointment of farmers. The Zambia Agricultural Research Institute ZARI Director Ivor Mukuka says a number of trials have been conducted to test the efficiency of different mild synthetic pesticides, botanicals and biopesticides, and that progress has been made towards effectively responding to armyworms. He made the remarks at the scientific conference on developing smallholder-oriented integrated pest management strategies for fall armyworms in Lusaka.
We are looking at the trials that we have conducted in ensuring that we find a sustainable way of managing this pest that is actually attacking the cereal crops. I think that is one of the most important things. And also the issues that we are raising in that presentation is the issue of partnerships in ensuring that we find a sustainable way of managing the pest. I think from the strategies and techniques that we have been looking at, there are already some farmers that have taken up those techniques that we have developed with our partners. Through the support from FAO, we are building capacities of our smallholder farmers as well as extension officers who are widespread. In other words, they are in contact with farmers so that going into the season, they are able to pass on this information to the smallholder farmers.
Senior researcher Professor Red Harrison has urged farmers not to panic in an event of an outbreak of armyworms, saying there are ways to effectively manage the pest while safeguarding the crop and the ecosystem.
To target the extension officers, we need to target the technical services within the Ministry of Agriculture and so on. So there's lots of steps in the process, and it is always hard work. As our own project, we will be running trainer-trainer camps for extension workers over the next year, and we will also be running farmer field schools, where we hope that we can start to introduce some understanding of how to deal with these pests. But as a message to farmers, the main thing is don't panic. Just because you have full army.
Speaking at the same event, Food Agriculture Organization Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for Africa, Abebe Haile Gabriel, is concerned that pesticides are not affordable to smallholder farmers and pose serious risks to humans, animals, aquatic life, and environmental health. Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. The Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, Mike Mposha, disclosed that the extension has been necessitated by the outcry of 184 water users who appealed for an extension to the amnesty period to enable them to rectify their irregularities. Mr. Mposha says the ministry gave a 90 days period amnesty to commercial water users with issues to rectify their irregularities with the Water Resources Management Authority, WAMA, which was tasked to work with all stakeholders and ensure that all water use illegalities were dealt with within the amnesty period.
We are aware that the ministry had planned under the 2022 budget to sink boreholes in various parts of the country this year in order to improve water supply to our citizens, in particular in rural areas. I'm now happy to report that the ministry will soon be commencing the sinking of about 1,350 boreholes, broken down as follows. 972 boreholes will be sunk through GRZ funding, will be financed by government, while the rest out of the 1,350 will be supported by our operating partners.
Transport and Logistics Minister Frank Tayali has implored the newly appointed Civil Aviation Authority Board of Directors to ensure that Zambia attains the required international safety and security assurances in the aviation sector. Speaking when he unveiled the new 6th Board of Directors, Mr. Tayali says the government has taken a strategic position of ensuring that Zambia becomes a regional hub for transport and logistics. Mr. Tayali is confident that the appointed board members will achieve the intended goals for the institution by developing a service charter for authority in order to enhance efficiency and achieve high levels of integrity. And the new Civil Aviation Authority Board of Directors Chairperson Patrick Nkoma promised to actualize government's call for the country to witness economic transformation through the aviation sector. Dr. Nkoma says the board will use the 8th National Development Plan to spearhead its activities.
Government has chosen a strategic direction of ensuring that Zambia becomes a regional transport and logistics hub. Aviation is a critical sector towards the actualization of this development. You may know by now that the government has spent well over $1.5 billion in the upgrade of Kenneth Kaunda, Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe, and Harry Mwangankumbula international airports, as well as the upgrade of provincial airports. The Civil Aviation Authority is a very critical institution as the regulator of the civil aviation sector. Therefore, there is need to ensure that sound policies are in place that will see the Civil Aviation Authority actualize its strategic position.
Shall perform its mandate studiously and shall not disappoint the trust that you have bestowed on it. Distinguished guests, in line with the new Dawn government aspirations to ensure that Zambia becomes the middle-income country by 2030, we will ensure that progressive policies are put in place.
A woman of Kawere village in Petauke district is appealing for help from well-wishers to allow her travel to Lusaka to seek medical treatment for her 2-year-old son who has a growth on his face. Letitia Piri explained that her son, whose growth started in October last year, is not able to eat properly due to the pain he is experiencing. Ms. Piri, who has been referred to the University Teaching Hospital in Lusaka, is asking for help from well-wishers in order for her to travel to Lusaka for further treatment.
This is the 2-year-old Bernard Piri, who has a medical condition as he has developed a growth on his face. Bernard of Petauke's Kawere village has been living in pain for almost a year now, as he is unable to eat properly due to the growth, which has affected one side of his face. Letitia Piri, the mother to Bernard, explains how the growth started.
Nesako kumpeleka huku makliniki kutoka kwa kumakwala kumakevuta tika pole kwa uchezo pia shukula paka nebitako na ipaka wele nchimozi problem ya yesi ile tumisha tinka mpeleke patete kwa neruta emkopa ma-x-ray empima pima kuma matende vitako diabetes ekambatinka mpeleke kujireshi.
Miss Piri, who has been referred to the University Teaching Hospital in Lusaka, is appealing for help from government and well-wishers in order for her to travel to Lusaka for further treatment. She said her husband, who is struggling to feed for his family, is also worried with the situation.
Tandizo kuri boma na abantu ozipeleka pali mwana kainaenda kwenda konaye matenda tiyo basoba akamshiteko operation pempa kotandizo kuri ampali wonso ozipeleka na kuboma kuti mwana atandizike. So zina yake ni Bernard Piri. Ndama niliye family koti ngakale kwa kulitiechi nezo pempa kotandizo kuli wantozi peleka tanga ntandizireko pali mwana kulala lini usiku olida kulia okulia lini kuno na mkati chekula.
Sambo David.
We'll take a second and final break. We'll be back with international sports news after the break.
In our quest to serve nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
And now in foreign news, Nigeria is battling its worst floods in a decade after heavy rains across the region. At least 20 people died this week, according to authorities, and more than 300 people were killed in flooding incidents so far this year. The floods have affected 500,000 people across 27 states, according to the National Emergency Management Agency. Hundreds have been injured and some 100,000 people have been displaced, the agency added. The Disaster Management Agency is warning of serious consequences in the coming weeks as 2 dams have begun to overflow. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
At least 20 people have died this week in Nigeria's worst flooding in a decade. The floods triggered by torrential rains have left entire villages inundated and houses destroyed. The country's disaster agency said 500,000 people have been affected in 27 states. I've lost my properties and my farmland with my grains. My wives and my children are in an internally displaced persons camp. I don't know how they're feeding themselves, nor the state of their health. The Disaster Management Agency is warning of serious consequences in the coming weeks as 2 dams have begun to overflow. As you can see, all of my people have relocated away from here. This community and many communities in our local government area have been taken away by floods. My properties are gone, my farmland as well. I lost 2 tractors. More than 300 people have been killed in flood-related incidents so far this year, according to the authorities.
Tunisia's opposition leader Rachid Ghannouchi appeared Tuesday before an anti-terror unit after over 12 hours of waiting Monday.